Welcome, everyone. Gene Key 26. This is where we find the sun and the moon because we're getting ready for a new moon. And thank the goddess because we're getting ready for a new moon in Sagittarius that gives us such a welcome respite from the intensity of 2023. I am already feeling the breakthrough of the new moon. And I think it's because there's a trine to Chiron. I probably wouldn't have paid that much attention to it, but it's pretty amazing the conversations I've been having that there's been struggle. And then I'm hearing people get it. So maybe that's what's happening in your own life. And this new moon is going to propel you forward. So the new moon happens on Tuesday, the 12th of December, my time. I think it's in the afternoon, my time, Pacific time. And we have the sun and the moon both at around 20 degrees Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is a fire sign. We are ready to go. We have Mars that is behind the sun and moon pushing us forward. I love that metaphor. That came from Molly McCord, and I really love that metaphor because I could feel the energy pushing us forward. Now we know we're going into a Mercury retrograde, but it doesn't feel like a bad Mercury retrograde. You know, Jupiter is going to be going direct on the 31st of December. So we still are in a bit of a holding pattern, but just so you know, to really use the energy, because once Jupiter goes direct and then Mercury goes direct on the 1st of January, we have go time. For the first time in a long time, we have no retrograde planets. Well, we have a few, but they're going to start going direct in January. So we have this period of time until we have in April, we're going to have another eclipse, and then we have a beautiful conjunction, and then part way in the year we're going to start having the retrogrades again. So we have this, I'm just presencing it now. We've got this incredible energy that I believe really starts us off with this new moon. It's a healing new moon. It said, okay, so everything you've been through, you now have clearance because you probably have clarity in a way that you didn't before. And so check into your life. Where are you actually feeling this completion energy? And I mean it in a distinction, like not just letting go loss energy, because I think that was the eclipse energy, but completion as a distinction. So you know that we can complete all the time, and we should be complete all the time. I remember Brahman Kiri saying, she was in the summit. Some of you know her in the Divine Feminine Summit. She was the transmission of Narayani and Divine Mother. And her dog recently passed. And her dog was like her soulmate, her temple guard. I know a lot of our pups have passed this year. And she said that a couple of years ago, she said to me, every day I cut cords with this dog. You know, I just clear and clean my energy field and I cut cords. That's a type of completion. It doesn't mean that her dog needed to be out of her life. It just meant that I want to keep it clean with my dog. I want to keep it clean with the people around me. I want to keep it clean in my life. So I'm always declaring completion on things like old patterns, even though we might have to complete over and over and over again. But it's this come from place of your intention being complete with something. And in her case, you know, understanding that I can't really get too codependent with this dog and I can't get codependent with anyone, because our job here is to really see each other in our own freedom, be in our own sovereignty. And then, as the Mary Oliver poem says, to love so deeply, to hold it against your bones as if your life depends on it. And then when the time comes to let go, to let go. And that is what we have been through so much of 2023. And this new moon is shining an inner light on the compass inside of now you get to go where you want to go. There's still this sense of like, I don't really know. I can't see around the corner, as one of my friends used to say. I don't know what that's going to mean. I don't know what's going to happen. But Sagittarius is also a sign of trust. In its shadow frequency, we can get egoic and judgmental. But in its light frequency, we can just know that everything is in divine time and we can trust. And so really harness the energy of trust right now, because I can feel the winds are at our backs and the integration is occurring of everything that we have experienced so far. And this healing, this beautiful healing. I mean, some of you know that last week I was in the hospital room, witnessing the crossing over, the leaving of spirit in form of my aunt. She has been a super close family member to me when I was growing up. She was this kind of safe haven. And we were not in touch the last few years as she was struggling deeply with addiction. And so there is a lot of tragedy to her story, but here's where Chiron, the wounded healer, comes into place. And that is that at the 11th hour, she really got it. She got something. I know, right? It's like, it's a gift when that happens. And I wasn't there for that. Her husband was there. And to hear that story brings tears to my eyes. And for those of you who are on this Gene Key journey, his highest frequency is forgiveness. And so I witnessed this divine play, truly the divine play, on the level of the human level. And we're going to talk about this human level and the 3 levels on this human level. And it looks like addiction and it looks like tragedy. When I heard that and that he was able to forgive her right before she passed, I was like, that's the highest expression of his template. So really, we come back to, we are all co-conspirators on a soul level to play this game of the divine in human form. And it's incredible. I received such a huge gift. And what I felt like when she passed, there were 6 of us standing around her and we were praying for her. We were bringing in the light. We were just totally blessing her third eye to see with new eyes, and hear with new ears, and to just let the divine wrap her in love. And so I had this experience afterwards, and it's just a strange, if I had to put words to it, it would be that I felt like a curse was lifted. I feel like darkness was lifted. And I'm not literally saying that because I just don't know, but it just had the feeling quality of opening. And I feel like this is really the frequency we're in with Chiron right now. The work that we did with Scorpio, it was like deep and it was so dark for some of us. And we had to really confront our shadow. And just yesterday, someone called me who has not been very present to his behavior. And he's like, yeah, I'm an addict. The first time I ever heard those words come out of this person's mouth. Like, wow. So I get to witness and be the space holder to receive that information into the light. Yeah. So what's possible? What's possible now? This is the beauty, I think, is what's happening is the new moon is teeing us up. So it's a good time as we're a few days before to really prepare your intentions. Really acknowledge too, the healing that you've been through. What is coming together right now? And for this person, I was thinking this morning, like Claire's transforming trauma class that we're going to be offering to people. Like some people are just going to be going on that journey. Some people, that was the journey of meeting their trauma. And now they're stepping into the light and ready to give out. So wherever we are, we're going to get the gold. So let's turn our attention to Gene Key 26 today. And the shadow is pride. The gift is artfulness. And the city is invisibility. I love that, even being invisible. Invisible takes so many knocks, but today we're going to find the superpower inside of invisibility. Richard Rudd calls it the sacred trickster. I called it the sacred shapeshifter. It's really a lot of coyote energy, if you can imagine. So presencing that, like bringing in coyote right now. So this is a good teaching on the architecture of the gene keys and how it relates to the game of being divine in form as a human. Because we're dealing with, in the shadow of pride, we're dealing with ego. And we all have an ego. And spiritual people want to get rid of their ego. And Gene Key 26 is like, no, don't get rid of it. Harness it. Direct it. This is a gene key that comes from the will center, the ego will center. Mine is open and undefined. I do not have this, but those who have it pack a lot of power. So if you have a birthday right now, this is your gene key, and this is 80% of what you're dealing with in your life. The light codes that you're here to transmit through you. And we are in the ring of light. And these, I've just been really presencing how much this ring of light is so powerful. Particularly powerful as we are being the divine in human form. So ego at the shadow level, it correlates to like World 96. When we were talking about Gurdjieff and the worlds and the map of consciousness, below World 48. World 48 for sure is ego, but it also is 96, this kind of using our will force to manipulate and control others and to even control life. Oftentimes at that level, there's so much density and shadow and negativity. And this is when you're in addiction, this is oftentimes the consciousness of people, very dark, depressed. It turns inward or it projects outward. So at the shadow level, that ego, we are identified with that ego. We don't even see the God force in us, even though it already is there. We are already whole and complete as we are because the God force is always there. It's like a glass or a window that's dirty and the light cannot shine through. So the light is obscured by the template that is hijacked into thinking that its thoughts, its emotions, its perception, its judgments are real. Remember when you were there? I was certainly there. It's a painful place to be, and it's a self-fulfilling, vicious cycle because the more you feed it, the more it grows. And that's why there are lower levels of hell beyond even World 48, World 96. So you're identified and merged. It's autopilot here. And then as we start to awaken, so we start to do some work that allows us to meet ourselves. One of the deep things that people who struggle with addiction must meet is their shame. Last night, that was the conversation I had. This person was really present to how much shame has been in the space. It's really taken years to be able to finally articulate there's so much shame in the space. And that is what Claire teaches. It's underneath all that trauma is this shame that we carry forward. So when we start to meet the shame, and we know that inside the gene keys, we have to acknowledge something first. That's the first step. And this is what this person did last night. And then we start to learn to accept it. And then the next step is to embrace it. And this is where the gift and the city start to come into play. So as we begin that pathway of acknowledge, accept, embrace, then we start to see through. We clean the glass a little bit more and the light starts to shine through, right? And then all of a sudden you're magnetizing people to you that are really different. Instead of telling you and reflecting to you what a loser you are, you're getting reflected of compassion, love. And so your world starts to change, and your inner world, you start to treat yourself better. You have more self-respect. You take yourself out of places where you're not seen, where you're not witnessed, where it's toxic. It's just not for you. And you start really honoring yourself and loving yourself. That's when you start to step into the gift frequency. Now, there's still ego in the gift frequency. And I love this statement. It says it in the Gene Keys. And I heard this statement in probably like 2008. My brain guy said it, and I will never forget it. And I've probably said it to you several times. And it was out of like my desire when I first started the path, and I was confronting so much of my trauma and so much of my shadow. My brain guy was like a person who really helped me on that path. And he confronted me in several places that was really painful. And I just wanted to escape it. And my escape was, I want to spiritually bypass it. I just wanted to go to the city level. Like, so I was following teachers who were teaching non-duality. I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do that. And the irony of the whole thing is the more I followed these teachers of non-duality, the more I started to break down in my body, my heart. I remember doing some rolfing and like they were like taking the fascial tissue off my heart. And I went home and cried for 24 hours straight. It was like all that's contained in my body. So anyway, my brain guy said to me, Kenlyn, you got to be a self before you can be no self. And I was like, damn, I'm going to have to do this thing. And so in the city of invisibility, he said, there's a saying on the mystical path, which more or less translates as, in order to transcend the ego, you must first have an ego worth giving up. Yeah. Right. And so at the gift level, we still have ego. And I remember saying at a retreat once, I said, if you don't think it takes ego for me to stand up and direct and create and be the container of transformation, then you're wrong. Because if I had no ego, I wouldn't be here. I would already be seeing through the game. I'd be living on my mountaintop, just whatever, blissing out, doing whatever. I'm like eating donuts. I don't know. I don't know what I'd be doing, right? But it certainly wouldn't be trying to do something. And so I had to make peace with trying to do something. Like, oh my gosh, it's not spiritual. This is still ego. And I love that Gene Key 26 is like, yeah, it is. And we're harnessing it because we're cleaning the glass so that the light can shine through even a little bit more. So what I love about 26 is that it goes right into business, because some of you are launching your own business or in your own business. You have your own personal brand. What is that? That's ego. But there's a healthy side of that ego. And 26 says that when you're in the artful stage, you're using your ego artfully. You're using it in service. So at the shadow level, you're just a taker. And that taker comes from being in scarcity, being in fear, that there's just not enough to go around. You remember thinking that way at one point in your life, or maybe that was part of your family dynamic? There's not enough to go around. So we've got to take ours. And we got to hold on to it. We got to hoard it. And this is where we cut corners and we're cheap. We don't leave good tips. You know, that's all coming from that pride, that ego, that fear. There's just not enough to go around. Yesterday, I was getting a chai, and my finger, you know how when you buy something and it gives you like 5 options for a tip, my finger touched the highest one yesterday. I don't even know. I have to go back and check. Like, did I like just give her the cost of my chai in a tip? But how funny is that? You know, I had all the thoughts about that. And it's so funny because this is Gene Key 26. It's like, yeah, press the highest button. Give the best tip, because guess what? It's not a scarce resource. Money's not scarce. Abundance is not scarce. And yes, there's always a both and to polarity, right? Like, I'm not telling you, go spend your wad. It's both and. It's be responsible and have your come from place. Be this place of knowing that we really live in abundance. It can't be any other way. It is so. So as we clean the glass, the more we clean the glass, the more the light shines through. And the more the light shines through, the more capacity you have to receive the transmission that we live in an abundant universe, not just at what our eyes can see, but in our subtle bodies. The knowingness that we are divine. This is the gift frequency. It starts to come through, that we start to really get, holy shit, I'm not just this human. I'm actually a spirit being having a human experience. And so as such, then different laws and rules become available to you. The laws of non-causation, non-causal reality, the law of that chiasm that we talked about last time, that when you drop that stone into the pond and it ripples out, this is just like Gene Key 25, this 26 is the same way. Just also like Gene Key 12 in purity, there are these cities where you get no credit for these cities. And we're going to move into invisibility. You get no credit. You get no credit for purity. When I read that first time, I was like, I can really resonate with purity. It's the position of my conscious earth. And I was like, oh, you get no attention. You get no pats on the back, because often purity is very obscure. You just do these acts, but as Gene Key 26 says, you do these acts and it's like this ripple effect in the pond, and it reverberates out. And so your impact is actually huge, but nobody knows it. And at the city level, you've dropped all your ego. By then, it's just pure fun. It's pure game. There are these books that I was reading. They're fiction pieces. And I believe that, I don't think he's ever said this, but I believe they were written by Adyashanti. I can't remember the name of them. But my friend said that she went to an Adyashanti workshop and asked him, and he said he did write them, but he wrote them under a pen name if he indeed wrote them. And it was really this exact Gene Key in play. He became the sacred trickster. He was messing around with the cops. There was this kind of scene that I recall where it was late at night and he was walking and there was no mischievousness planned, but somebody saw this shadow and got worried and called the police. And then he started to play into that game. And then he started to kind of run from it. And then ultimately he walked up to them and said, oh, that was me. And I was just having fun with you guys. It's the sacred trickster, this idea of invisibility, that you can really, that the level of play can be so fun, so you can wield it. And this is where the city comes, where you can like bend light to your will, because your will is in service to the divine. Because really the divine is light. That is your light body. And you can use your light body. It's in your embodiment. This is Jinky 26. There's so much to explore here that we haven't even scratched the surface. But suffices to say that there's play inside of it, because the ego has been dropped. And now at the city level, the glass has no dirt on it. It's completely clear and the light is shining through, and you forget that you're a you. Cynthia Bourgeois said it this way, that your attention comes off of the fact that you're a you, and it's just witnessing that you are. It's not obsessed with who you are and what you are. It's just that you are. And I love that distinction, because I'm now going to play with it in my own consciousness and notice the times that I'm a who or I'm a what, and just see if I can internally shift it to be the witness, as Trungpa Rinpoche, like this blue pancake on your head. Can you just like watch life playing? Can you move yourself from subject to object and be the witness of your life, instead of the I being identified with the I? Now I'm just pointing to things. These are places that will open up for us the more that we clean the glass. And the city represents that place where there's no one. We don't lose our particularity. Apparently, we keep our particularity even in our as our subtle body crosses over to the multidimensional realms. That's how we're able to witness or acknowledge like our deceased ancestors, or our dog, or whatever. There's a particularity that the subtle body retains. The soul moves on. That's a distinction that really helps me to understand the multidimensionality of ourselves. And in the city level, we get to play that in form. So it's never that we get out of here. We still have a body and we get to play this game in a body, but we get to have much more fun. And so Jinky 26 coming kind of full back around, and I want to say a couple things about business before we move into our sisterhood activation. But really, this Jinky is in love with business. It's in love with sales. It's in love with productizing and selling shit. And what's so cool about it is that at the gift frequency, and we teach this inside of the business accelerator, that it becomes a service. It becomes such deep listening that I'm listening to the people that I want to support. And then I'm making and creating things that they need. And that service is still sales. It's still marketing. It's still selling things, but it has a higher octave. And this is where we can start to allow play and fun into our business. And just as much as invisibility is where this city takes us, and it allows us to shapeshift, the paradox is at the gift level that we got to be seen. He says that in order to sell a product or a truth, like here and now, you have to put yourself in the limelight. You got to be visible. You have to embrace the energy of pride and ego that lies within all humans and use it in service to your higher purpose. Isn't that beautiful? And then he goes on to talk about how at the heart of marketing is this manipulation Like, even if I were to play music right now and get you into your hearts and you were to cry, that's can be seen as manipulation, because without the negative shadow of a shadow come from place, I'm causing an experience inside of you. And that's part of Gene Key 26. So we don't need to be afraid of that. We don't need to be afraid of our power to be able to do that. We just get to constantly check ourselves, check our come from place. Because pride and ego, those are insidious shadows, right? They're insidious. They creep in. They love to do that. So we're constantly working this yoga. There's no place of arrival. And we might get to this place where we've hit this level where we feel like we're pretty much, okay, it's good. I've cleared out a lot of shadow. And then you'll expand and expand and expand, and then you'll hit another layer. And when you take it with the divine gain, this is what it means to be spirit in a body, to be the divine in a body. But it doesn't have to be tragic. So I'm going to complete here. I love this gene key. It's super powerful. And it's such a great gene key to light us up for this new moon, for this go time that we're getting ready for. And for this new you to come through. So take your time over the holiday season, as Mercury is in retrograde, to keep checking in on who you are now and that you are now. So let's rub our hands together as we gather all the positive energy that we have generated here. And let's beam it out. Let's dedicate it to the merits. Let's dedicate it to our humanity and to our divinity, the both and of our existence. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. Namaste.